All right, welcome everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to what I hope will be, I'll say this a bunch of times on this call, the most valuable webinar you've ever attended in your life. That is my goal. Happy Thursday. Thanks everyone for making the time. We're going to give it maybe 1 or 2 more minutes, see who else trickles in. Real quick, I want to get some temp check before we dive in today. For everyone here, if you're here, we're going to talk about ghostwriting. We're going to talk about ghostwriting monetization. We're going to talk about the most lucrative services ghostwriting. We're going to talk about all sorts of different stuff. So real quick, drop in the chat. Who here is already ghostwriting? You're already writing for someone else. You have at least one client. Awesome. Okay. Who here has not started yet, but wants to get into ghostwriting? So you don't have any clients yet, but you're interested in it. You've heard about it. Yeah, okay. So that's great. Okay. So a lot more people who want to get started, who want to enter it. All right. Um, for everyone here, there's a good chance you are probably familiar with or have been part of our Ghostwriter Anonymous school community. We drop free resources in there all the time. Maybe Jamie, could you link to that school community in the chat in case anyone isn't part of it? Are those helpful? We try and drop a bunch of free resources in there to help people get started. Um, it doesn't really matter if you want to start ghostwriting or you already have a few clients. I promise there are going to be things on this call that are going to help you. Again, I said at the beginning, I'm going to say it 20 more times. My goal is to make this the most valuable webinar you've ever signed up for in your life. One of my biggest pet peeves is when I've signed up for webinars in the past and the person just talks and tells all these stories, but they don't actually tell me anything applicable or anything that I can go and do, right? Very, very inspiring, not very tactical. Doesn't help me very much, okay? That's not what we're going to do here. We're going to cover a lot of ground. I'm going to try and give you as many helpful frameworks as possible and also give you some different frames to think through these things so that you understand how to take advantage of all these different opportunities. Okay. Last question, and then we'll dive in. Looks like we got a full room, over 200 people here. Awesome. Thanks for making the time. So last question. Who here is currently writing for themselves on the internet? So you're actively creating content on X or LinkedIn or Instagram or YouTube or, right? Drop in the chat. Okay, so a lot of people. So that's really great. That's really great. Okay. If you're not, we share tons of resources to help you get started writing online. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, Start Writing Online, you should. I mean, it's a big part of what I talk about. I love the idea of writing on the internet. I've been writing on the internet for over 15 years at this point. So that's great. All right, so we have people all over the board. Let's dive in. I want to make this the most valuable webinar you've ever signed up for in your entire life. And the first thing, if you're unfamiliar, my name is Nicolas Cole. All my friends call me Cole. Drop in the chat if you, just so I know, if this is your first time attending something that I've done or attending a workshop or hearing me talk, or you just got introduced to our ecosystem. Is anyone here first time? Awesome. Well, great to have you. And I hope to take you down the rabbit hole. I hope that by the end of this, you go, wow, this is only the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much more here that I can learn and that I can help you with. I like prefacing really quickly, just so you have the context. I went to school for creative writing and literature. That's what my college degree is in. My college degree is actually in fiction writing. And a big reason why I do what I do today and why I create all of these resources and we have these different programs and I do these free webinars is because when I graduated from college and I said, I want to become a successful writer, no one really explained to me how to do that. And a lot of times the career paths that get presented to writers are you either become a best-selling author or you work at a coffee shop and you work on your failed novel and that's it. And you just stack rejection letters on your desk for the rest of your life. And those were really the only paths. And then there's like freelance writing where people say, hey, could you write me a blog post about liposuction and I'll pay you $20, right? And so there weren't really a lot of good answers for me. And so I have spent the past over a decade at this point trying everything. And I've been writing on the internet for over a decade, and I've tried being a freelance writer, and I've done ghostwriting, I've done sales copywriting, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of clients. Like I explored all these different paths in order to figure out, okay, if I was to do this all over again, what do I wish I knew? What do I wish someone would have told me? And that's a big part of what really motivates me to want to pay it forward and share that with all these other, all people like you, like other writers, because I struggled with this problem too. So just quick context, I founded the first ghostwriting agency for CEOs and startup founders back in 2016. We scaled that to over $2 million in annual revenue. At our height, we had 23 full-time employees. We employed writers and editors. We had 80 plus clients around the world at any given time. I've personally ghostwritten for over 300 different industry leaders, everybody from CEOs of publicly traded companies to startup founders of massively venture-backed startups out of Silicon Valley. I've ghostwritten for Bitcoin billionaires. I've ghostwritten for Grammy-winning musicians, Olympic athletes, like you name it. I've done it. I've also written 10 books, two of which the two most popular are The Art and Business of Online Writing, which I actually have here on my desk. Anyone here, have you read this yet? Drop in the chat if you've read The Art and Business of Online Writing or The Art and Business of Ghostwriting. Awesome. So that's a great place to start. If you're new here, both of those books, here's everything that you could possibly need to know in order to get started, either writing on the internet or getting into ghostwriting. I've personally mentored over 12,000 writers in our beginner writing program, Ship 30 for 30, and I've mentored over 1,500 writers in our Premium Ghostwriting Academy, helping people get started ghostwriting, reposition themselves as ghostwriters. Okay, so just a little bit of context so that you know, I'm not talking out of my ass. I've been doing this for over a decade. I've made every mistake you could possibly make. I've generated millions of dollars in revenue as a writer, executing things that people told me my entire life, you will never make a living as a writer. Every single person told me you will never make a living as a writer. And not only have I made a living as a writer, but I've generated millions of dollars doing it. Okay. So the first thing, and we're going to walk through these different ideas in sequence because they're really important. The first thing I want to talk about, the reason that I asked who here is already writing on the internet is because ghostwriting is a dividend on your skills. That is the easiest way, and that is the most helpful way of thinking about it, okay? All ghostwriting is you taking something that you are actively writing yourself, and you're going, I'm going to go do this for someone else. And the way I like thinking about it is, no, you're not selling out. I can't, like so many people were like, yeah, but everyone else, then the other person's getting the credit, and I don't get the credit, and what the hell? You're not selling your pen. You're renting your pen. There's a huge difference. Okay. You're not writing something and then you're giving it to someone else and then they're putting their name on it. What you're doing is you're saying, I have this skill and I would like to double monetize this skill by renting it to someone else. So what does this mean? If you are actively writing on LinkedIn, you could be making 5, 10, 15, 20 grand a month by writing on LinkedIn for other people. If you are actively writing on X, you could be making 5, 10, 15, 20 grand a month ghostwriting for other people on X. If you have a great weekly newsletter, you could make a living ghostwriting newsletters for other people. If you create video scripts for yourself and you have, like you create Instagram reels or you have a TikTok following, you can make money by renting that skill to other people. And I want to say it in the inverse, okay? The inverse is if you aren't renting that skill to other people, you are currently leaving 5 figures of monthly revenue on the table. Okay. So even if you want to monetize in other ways, even if you're like, I want to sell digital products or I'm a consultant, right? It doesn't matter. Every single person who has a skill should consider double monetizing the skill by renting it to someone else. So first of all, does that frame make sense? Drop in the chat, okay? Is that frame helpful in terms of understanding? All ghostwriting is you go, I practice on myself, and then I rent it to someone else, okay? And quick little story here, how I got into ghostwriting is I was writing on a website called Quora back in 2016. Anyone hear of the website called Quora? It was a very niche site. I started writing on a site called Quora, and I started saying, and if you want to write on Quora too, I'm happy to help you. I practiced on myself, and then I rented my pen to someone else. Then I did the same thing with Medium. Then I did the same thing with LinkedIn. Okay. So that's the first big idea is ghostwriting is a dividend on your skills. Now, the reason why I encourage this so much for every single writer, and this isn't always true, but this has been a big motivator for me. And so I think it's worth talking about. Drop in the chat. I'm gonna say drop the number 1 if you just want to make money by writing for other people, or drop the number 2 if, yeah, you want to make money, but really your goal is like you want to be a successful writer in and of your own right. Okay, awesome. So we got both. That's great. It's about 50-50. Okay. This is one of those things that is so simple, but it takes a tremendous amount of time in order to really understand. If you just want to make money as a writer by providing a service, the number 1 thing that you need to do is you need to get really good at providing that service, which requires time and requires effort. If you want to become a successful writer in and of your own right, your biggest bottleneck, it's the same thing. It's that you need to develop proficiency. It's that you need to get better and better and better and better and better at the skill. In both cases, your biggest bottleneck to improvement is you need to rack up a lot of hours of practice, right? Now, this is where it's so simple, it's complicated. Now, what is the best way to rack up a gazillion hours of practice and not like have to work a job that's different? And then you're like, my only time to write is at 11 p.m. 3 days a week, and I can squeeze in an hour. That's what most people try and do when they're like, I want to pursue my dreams of being a writer or making money as a writer. The easiest path is to start ghostwriting because you literally get paid to practice. So it doesn't matter if you want to just make money by providing a service or you want to be a successful writer in and of your own right. That was me. I'm like, I want to write books. I want to be a full-time writer. I want to live my dream. You want to know how I racked up 8,000 hours of practice and made 6 figures the whole time? It's by ghostwriting. Ghostwriting literally pays you to practice the skill that you need to acquire anyways. Right? So why wouldn't you do that? All roads lead to, I need to rack up hours. Okay. And how do you rack up hours? Well, Carrie asked the question in the chat, what's even easier than writing for other people? You write for yourself. You practice on yourself. If you want to create LinkedIn content for other people, you should probably create LinkedIn content for yourself. If you want to write on X for other people, you should probably write on X for yourself. Right? So ghostwriting is a dividend that you get paid on your skills, and your fastest path to improvement and your fastest path to making more money is simply you need to get paid to practice. There's no faster way. Who gets better at writing faster? The writer who writes 1 hour per day or the writer who writes 10 hours per day? It's the writer who writes 10 hours per day. It doesn't matter if it's for yourself or if it's for someone else. The second writer hits 10,000 hours exponentially faster. Okay. So, and don't worry, Tasso, we're going to cover the AI component at the very end because it's a very popular question. Okay. So, what are the 8 most lucrative ghostwriting services? Let's walk through these. Okay. Who here thinks, when you hear the term ghostwriting, who thinks of books? Drop in the chat. You think, oh, a ghostwriter writes books. That's probably the skill that I should build. That's probably the service I should provide. Okay, I have done everything on this list. I've done all of these. I'm going to let everyone here in on a little secret. Ghostwriting books is actually one of the worst ghostwriting services that you can provide. Now, Can you do it? Of course you can. I've ghostwritten books for people. The problem is that books they take the longest. There's the most emotional wrap up in it. People attach their entire life story to their book, right? They're like, this is my magnum opus. This is going to represent me and my family for generations. Okay. And then third is they're the hardest to charge for because people on one level, they value them so highly. They're like, this represents my legacy. And on the other side of the spectrum, they're like, yeah, but I don't want to pay you that much to do it. So books are actually really, really difficult. Okay. And so I just want to give everyone some context here. Ghostwriting books typically takes no less than 6 months for a single project. More realistically, it takes 12. It takes about a year. Okay. And I'm gonna write this out so that if you want to take notes, you can see these here. Okay, books usually take 6 to 12 months. Anyone drop in the chat, what do you guess you should charge to ghostwrite a book? Just 200-page normal book. What do you think you should charge? So we've got 50K, we've got 5K, we've got 10K, we've got 3K, we've got 100K, all over the board, right? And that, like, nothing exemplifies the point better than that. You have some people who think it should be $5 grand. You have other people who think it should be $100 grand, right? I will tell you baseline, if you entertain any of these projects ever, if you ever ghostwrite a book for less than $30,000, you are doing it wrong massively. 30,000, like 30,000 divided by, can someone help me with some mental math here? What's 30,000 over 12 months? How much is that per month? $6 grand a month. Okay. Which is basically like a $72,000 a year salary. Okay. It's not terrible, but like that's really what the project is. You're not getting paid $30,000. You're basically getting paid $6 grand a month for a year. And for some people that might be fine, right? Do the same math though if you charge 10 grand to do that. Right? Well, now we're making $2 grand a month, which is the equivalent of making 36 grand a year salary, right? So that's a problem, right? That's a problem. So books are not my favorite service to provide. I've done them. I've always found that they took the longest. I found them to be the least profitable. I found them to be the hardest to execute with clients. I found them to be the hardest to land. They're hard clients to find, right? And so if you want to be a writer in and of your own right, if I were you, I would monetize with other services like these, and then I would write your own books. Okay? Write your own books, build your own library, own your own IP. That's great. Don't ghostwrite books. It's too hard. So let's start at the beginning. Okay. So the first type of ghostwriting, and this is something that we really specialize in inside our Premium Ghostwriting Academy. We talk about it all the time. If you follow me on social, you hear me talk about it all the time. It's what's called an educational email course. Okay. So an educational email course, let me show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like. We have a simple opt-in and we're like, hey, over the next 5 days, we're going to show you how to do these things. Type in your email. Okay. Now, why is an educational email course so valuable to a business? Well, I'll tell you, because most people on the company's website say, subscribe to my newsletter. Okay. So let's just do a fun little exercise here in the chat. If I say, subscribe to my newsletter, that's all I tell you. Subscribe to my newsletter. Drop in the chat. What are you getting in exchange? You just gave me your email and I said, subscribe to my newsletter. What do you get? You have no idea. You have no idea. I just said, I'm a company, subscribe to my newsletter. And that is why the vast majority of newsletter opt-ins for companies are less than 1%. because there's no value, there's no offer, there's no trade. It's basically type in your email and I'll hit you up whenever I want. Right? And so as a result, you capture way less people onto your email list. Okay. Anyone want to guess what the opt-in rate is of this page for our business? Start Writing Online. Drop in the chat. What do you think the opt-in rate is? And some good guesses. Yeah, depending on where the traffic is coming from, the opt-in rate of this page is anywhere from 50 to 75%. So think about the difference between a company that has a subscribe to my newsletter and you get half of 1% of your web traffic to opt in versus I get 50% of the traffic to opt in. What is the impact that has on a business? That is a massive impact, right? So what if you went to businesses and you helped them build this? Is this hard? Not really. You create a simple landing page. You come up with a tangible offer. You write 5 emails. You drip them out over 5 days, and you set it up in an email system. How much can you charge for this? To create this asset, when we train ghostwriters on how to do this, we give them, here's the landing page template, here's a template and little exercise in order to write a really great hook and offer. Here's how to write each day of the email course. Here's how to do literally every single thing. How much can you charge? We recommend you charge $5,000 for this asset. How long does it take? About 30 days. I think you could do this done in a month. Way better than trying to ghostwrite someone's book for a year. Right? Now, what is the other beauty of pitching a service like this as a ghostwriter? The beauty is that when you help them solve this first problem, it unlocks the next 2 problems. Okay. So once you start helping a business get people on the email list, that's exactly right, Nick. It gets you in the door, right? Once you start getting people on an email list, well, now 2 other problems emerge for the business. The business either needs to drive more traffic because now they have an opt-in that's working, right? They're like, whoa, I'm not capturing half of 1%. I'm capturing 30% or 50% or 70% of people, right? So what do? We ramp up the traffic. How do we ramp up the traffic? You help them ghostwrite social content. You ghostwrite social content, you drive more organic traffic, more organic warm traffic goes to the landing page, increases the opt-in rate, right? Increases the number of people on the email list. The other problem that emerges is, well, now I have a bunch of people on the email list. They just finished my educational email course. I don't want them to never hear from me again, right? Now I want to nurture them. Now I want to make sure that we stay top of mind. And newsletters are just the tip of the iceberg. You could have a weekly newsletter, right? You could have different sequences. You could have abandoned cart sequences. You could have upsell sequences. You could have sequences where you send objection handling emails or testimonials to people who clicked but didn't buy. So this gets you your foot in the door. You build an educational email course. Now you're inside a business. And now 2 new problems emerge. Social media ghostwriting, right? Platforms we recommend for this is what we train ghostwriters on, would be X and LinkedIn. And we typically aim for 1 to 2 short form posts per day and 2 long form posts per week, and approximately anywhere from $3,000 a month to $7,500 a month. Okay. If you're charging less than $3,000 a month, it's not because the service isn't worth it. It's because you're afraid to say a higher number. Period, full stop. I've trained a gazillion writers at this point. I'm telling you, it's not because the service isn't worth it. It's because you can't get the words and it's $4,000 a month out of your mouth. So that is the skill to build. And is 7,500 the cap? No way. I've charged 10 grand a month to write social content. I've charged 15 grand a month to write social content. A lot of it, it's not that one person has a better service necessarily. It's that they've packaged it better, they've priced it more appropriately. They can say a higher number. And the only way that you can overcome that is by notching yourself up over time, right? And sometimes you need someone like me poking you, being like, why did you just sell another client for $1,000? Why did you do that? Stop doing that. Charge more, charge more. Okay. So these three things every single business needs. Let's fill in newsletter ghostwriting. Typically, the offer looks like this: one weekly newsletter for a company or for like an individual with a personal brand. And you're aiming somewhere in the ballpark of $3 to $5 grand a month. Okay. You can get more advanced by doing other sequences. So you could do, like I said, abandoned cart sequence. You could do an upsell sequence. You could do a like 4 clickers. So people who click on the link but don't buy. Maybe we want to send them an objection handling sequence, right? We could create a book a call sequence for organizations that do phone sales. For each of these, you could charge another $3 to $5 grand. Oh, you need another sequence? All right, sure. It's another $3 grand. It's another $4 grand. It's another $5 grand. Yes, 3,000. Thanks, Susan. So every single business needs these three things. My recommendation would be to start here and then upsell to these other two. Now, sometimes you can go the inverse. Sometimes you land a social ghostwriting client and then they go, I have traffic. Now I need an opt-in. Great, let's build you an educational email course, right? But these are the big three. Now, before we continue, does this make sense? Does everyone understand that these are the big three? Everyone needs these three services. Awesome. So Stephanie, that's a good question. With no experience, would you start out at these prices? Yes, I would. Every person that works with us in our Premium Ghostwriting Academy, I tell them the first time you offer this, you should charge $5 grand. And I can't tell you how many times I've watched this happen. Someone who's never done this before, they land a client, and then they have the call with the client, and the client goes, how much is it? And they get scared at the last minute and they go, oh, it's $2,000. And the client says, sure, no problem. And then they come back to me and they go, I can't believe I said the lower number. I'm telling you. So I want to just reinforce, like, who here, and by this is okay, right? That this is why it's so important to talk through these things. Who here thinks $5,000 is a lot of money? Drop in the chat. If the thought of charging $5 grand feels like I am charging a ton of money. Okay. Here's what you have to remember. The amount that you're charging, nothing in and of itself is expensive or cheap. Let me say that again. Nothing in and of itself is expensive or cheap. Everything is valued based on context. So there's a funny joke in the luxury world, which is, how do you sell a $5,000 watch? You sell a $5,000 watch by putting it next to a $50,000 watch. You have to remember that $5 grand relative to the value that you can create inside of someone else's business is nothing. Okay? So if you go help a company increase their opt-in rate by 10 times, they paid you $5 grand, they might make $500,000 off of that. Depends on how big the business is, right? So the amount of money that you charge is not what matters. What matters is the impact of the thing that you're doing inside of someone else's business. Okay. Let's keep going because I want to make sure we cover as much of this as possible. Number 4, thought leadership articles. So this is actually what I built my entire agency doing. I built my entire agency doing one thing. We wrote 800-word thought leadership articles for CEOs and founders. We did that for hundreds of clients. Little fun fact is at our height, we were producing more articles per month than Inc. magazine and Forbes. That's how many articles we were ghostwriting in a month. And our offer was very simple. We either did 4 articles per month for 5K, or we did 2 articles per month for 3,500. We posted those articles on Quora, Medium, and LinkedIn. And we also cross-posted on the person or company's website if they wanted to. We also gave the articles to their PR team, which they could go pitch and distribute if they wanted to. We didn't handle any of that. We just said, here you go, right? Thought leadership articles are really, really compelling. Now, this is a little bit of a harder service in the sense that it requires a good amount of understanding about how executives and how startup founders value it. Okay. And I just want to give everyone here a quick crash course in case you're interested in this. Why does a CEO of a publicly traded company, or why does a startup founder of a startup that just raised $500 million, why do they want to write articles, or why do they want to position themselves as a thought leader? Drop in the chat if you have a guess as to why. PR is a good guess. Legacy is not a bad guess. Ego is a great guess. There's a good amount of that. Yeah, there's two answers. For executives, it's career defensibility. And for startup founders, it's funding. Okay. So if you're a CEO, or let's use a different example. If you're a CMO, if you're the chief marketing officer of a publicly traded enterprise technology company, the way that you create career defensibility is you build your own personal brand and you share your own insights at scale with other people. Why? Well, you do that so that the next time a company has a CMO position and they see, hey, you've been writing articles about this same thing on LinkedIn for the past 2 years, who do you think they reach out to? Who do you think the recruiter reaches out to? They reach out to that person, right? So for executives, I found after working with hundreds of them that it has a lot to do with career defensibility. For startup founders, it has everything to do with funding. So you're like, Cole, how the hell do you charge $5,000 a month to write 4 800-word articles? Well, I'll tell you, because you have to have the context to know that if you're talking to a startup founder who just raised $10 million for their Series A, in order for them to raise their Series B, which they're going to try and go raise $30 million, the founder needs to attract the attention of investors, right? So when I would frame this service to that specific person, I would say, hey, if you think about it, this is sort of like insurance for your next round. You want investors to see you putting your mission out into the world, right? Startup founder goes, yes. I go, great. And if we're successful, and if you authoring these articles just helps you find even just one more investor, what's that worth to you? Well, if we find another investor to lead our next round, I mean, that's another $30 million in funding. Wow. So then $5,000 a month is pretty cheap. And this is the whole secret. The whole secret is understanding that you aren't selling a service. What you're doing is you're helping solve a problem inside of someone's business. You're helping them unlock something that they can't do on their own. Or if they did it on their own, it would take them too much time. And when you start there, the price is irrelevant. It's like, hey, if we write articles and you really share your mission at scale as a startup founder, and you raise 3 more funding rounds and your company's valued at $500 million, well, geez, paying me $5,000 a month seems like a steal, no? Right? So these are things that you sort of have to understand about this specific type of person. Here's the next one. I think this one's becoming more and more popular. It is a bit of a different skill. And yes, Ulad, writing social content plays a very similar role. Yes. Articles and social content at this point are like very similar because on social, you can do long form posts now. You couldn't do that back in 2016 when I was doing this. So they fulfill very similar goals. Okay. Video scripts. Is anyone here currently doing this? Either are you creating scripts for yourself or are you creating scripts for other people? I would love to know because this is an emerging service. Okay, awesome. So I will tell you, as someone who I script a lot of my own content, I've been investing a lot more on YouTube in the past year and a half. Does anyone watch any of my YouTube videos, by the way? I feel like I hammer away at them and I never know if they're actually helpful or if people watch them. So really? Okay, well, good. Thanks. I often I struggle with all the same problems, by the way, everyone here. I go through many periods where I'm like, damn, I don't know if this is even worth it. I don't know if this is working. I don't know if this is even helpful, right? So thank you. That's actually really motivating. I appreciate that. I'll keep hacking away at it then. So I script a lot of my own videos. I will tell you that in scripting for myself, I have never been more aware of how much I wish I could find an amazing script writer. It takes so long. It is a very different skill and it's something that is very time consuming for me. And I think that more and more people, I've had a couple hypotheses that haven't really changed over the past decade. Every year, more people need to play the digital business game. Every year, more businesses know they need to create content online. Every year, more people realize, oh, if I had an organic following, my life would be easier. Every year, executives realize if I create content online, I have more career defensibility. Every year, startup founders realize, wow, if I created content online or I had a newsletter or I shared my insights at scale, it would be easier for me to raise money. These things have been true for a decade, and I see no reason why they won't continue to be true every single day thereafter. Okay. And part of that is every single day, people are realizing in order to scale myself, I don't just need to write and publish text-based content. I need other formats too. I need audio content. I need video content. And so an amazing role that you can play as a ghostwriter is by helping create video scripts. I also want to point out that you can do the inverse. You could take someone who has a YouTube channel and go, you already did all the thinking. You already created all these amazing frameworks or ideas or stories or whatever. All you have to do is break your videos apart. And now you have tweets. Now you have threads. Now you have Medium articles. Now you have LinkedIn carousels. So there's actually two ways of perceiving this. You can go text first and then help them script video, or you can start with video or even audio, and you can break it apart into text. There's two different ways of going about it, right? And so this is another really, really amazing service. And this is something that everyone here should consider. And especially, I think the important nuance with video, I'll put a little asterisk here. With video, I think it's really important that you have a personal interest in video yourself. Because I will tell you from experience, scripting things for me, nothing will teach you more about script writing than you practicing on yourself. The moment that you have to write a script and then you have to say it out loud in front of a camera, you're gonna realize you're gonna go, oh, that sentence was really janky. I need to reword that. Or, oh, that's too complicated. Or, oh, it took me too long to get to the point. Or, oh, that organization doesn't work. So it's true for everything. I'm such a big believer in you need to practice on yourself, but video is the epitome of this. If you want to provide this service, you have to be actively practicing on yourself. And if you do, it's only going to make you better. and it's going to make it really easy to attract clients. Because if your scripts are great and your videos are great, clients are going to want to work with you, right? Now, the last two, I put them here. I just want to flag them. I just want you all to be educated on the world of ghostwriting. But at the same time, like I don't know that I would necessarily recommend these. One service is you can ghostwrite speeches. So I have done this. I've ghostwritten commencement speeches for really successful venture capitalists and startup founders. You could also ghostwrite startup pitch decks. A lot of startups really struggle to communicate the value of the thing that they're trying to solve in the world, right? Good question. Real quick before we move on, video scripts, what I would probably target is I would target 5 shorts per week, so 1 per day. And I would target 1 long form per week, or maybe every other week. A lot of this comes down to the amount of time that a client has. And for both of these, you're probably looking in the ballpark of about, I'm going to say $4,000 on the low end to like $7,000 a month. Okay. Sometimes you could break this apart and be like, I only do shorts, and I do $3,000 a month for this, or I only do long form and I do, $4,000 a month for this because it's like $1,000 a video. Long form takes a lot longer than people think. But this is around the ballpark that you should be in. Okay, so speeches, I wouldn't really recommend. I'm just saying that it's there. You're going to have clients that are going to be like, I'm giving a keynote next week. Do you think you could help me with my speech? I would encourage you to turn those clients down. I honestly, I think it just takes too long and it's not really worth it. And startup pitch decks, same thing. Like the amount of value that you would be providing to help a startup think through their entire value proposition, you can't charge enough for it. And if you can, like there's a more lucrative way of working with that client. I'm just saying these opportunities present themselves. This is not what I would recommend that anyone do. I would take speeches, startup decks, and books, and I would put those in a category called that would be really cool, and then don't ever bother with it. You will make way more money pursuing these big 3. Articles, if you're inclined in the corporate world or the startup world and you're interested in that and you sort of have that knowledge or you want to learn more about that, I think that can work just as well. But nowadays, articles and social content are so similar because articles are really just long form text posts. So a lot of that is the same. And then video scripts, I would only pursue if you yourself are really interested in video. Okay. So does this make sense? Let's pause here before we continue. Do these services make sense? And maybe drop in the chat, now that you hear this, is there a service that you find yourself gravitating to? Is there one where you go, you know what? This would actually be a really cool thing for me to offer. This would be a really cool skill for me to build. Awesome. Okay, great. So those are the big ghostwriting services. All right. Everyone feel like they have a good lay of the land of how the ghostwriting world works. You have a lot of different options. Even more so than just these services, I really encourage everyone to come back to this idea. Okay. The way that you identify lucrative opportunities is you just start with, what am I currently doing myself that I have a skill? And how can I rent that skill to someone else? That's all it is. Okay. Now, who here goes, okay, Cole, that's all really helpful, but how the hell am I supposed to go get a client? That's great. I understand the service, but now what do I do? How do I go find a client? Okay. And we have this saying in PGA, which is, in the beginning, your niche is your network. So what that means is, in the beginning, you don't need to figure out your positioning forever. You don't need to have some huge audience. The only thing that you need to do is you need to look around your life and look for two people. In PGA, we call these leaks and we call these faucets. Okay, I'm going to write these out. A leak is someone you can help directly, and a faucet is someone who knows someone you can help. So every single person here, drop in the chat if you can think of one person in your life that you know that either needs one of these services or knows someone or might know someone who needs one of these services. And before you say, no, I don't, I want you to think about, what about the uncle that has been talking for 5 years about how he wants to start getting more attention for his laundromat business? Or what about the friend of yours who like has this little startup and they aren't generating a ton of money yet, but like they've been at it for a bit, right? Or what about the friend that they've also been providing a service on their own, like they're a video editor or they're a graphic designer, but like they don't have that many clients and like they're sort of struggling with this too. Every single person, you know, someone in your life who either needs your help or knows someone who needs your help. What about a former coworker who's really plugged in to like a certain industry or niche? What about a former boss or mentor? The point is, there are ghostwriting clients and ghostwriting opportunities everywhere around you. And what people do is they think, oh, I need to go start writing content on the internet and I need to build this huge personal brand and that's how I get clients. Well, sure, it's not going to hurt you, but that's not the easiest place to start. The easiest place to start is your niche is your network. Who do you know that you can help? And who do you know who might know someone that you can help? Okay. Now, here's the irresistible offer script. This is why, fundamentally, this is why so many writers struggle to make good money. The two mistakes that writers make is first, they try and go on platforms like Upwork or Fiverr, and they just raise their hand and they say, I'm looking for someone to employ me. Please, someone hire me and I will write whatever you need. Okay. And when you do that, you are giving up all of your pricing power. You're giving up all of the control that you have in the relationship. Right? And the second problem is that when a writer goes and talks to a client, they try and sell the client on their service. And I think it's really important for everyone here, okay? Put this like, write it on a note card, put it on your wall, tattoo it if you have to. The client can't care about the solution until they first care about the problem. Let me say that again. The client can't care about the solution until they first care about the problem. Where writers go wrong is they try and convince people you should buy my service. And that is not actually the game. The game is you need to educate the client on a problem they don't know they have, or a problem they know they haven't gotten around to solving. Okay? So here's why this irresistible offer script works so well. Imagine I'm pitching you. You're the client, I'm the writer. And I go, hey, I offer social ghostwriting. Would you like to hire me? You go, no, I did not wake up this morning looking to give someone else $4,000 a month. The client can't care about the solution until they first care about the problem. Okay. So now notice the difference. You're the client, I'm the writer. And I say, hey, I just want to let you know, I spent some time poking around your site and your social profiles, and I realize you haven't been writing on X or LinkedIn for like the past 5 years. And it looks like, you have this agency offering and you offer this service. And I see that you're trying to work with this specific type of person, but like, what are you doing to attract leads? You're not creating organic content. Well, that's a problem, right? And I'm going to guess that you're probably spending a lot of money on paid ads because you're not driving any organic traffic, right? Well, the reason why you're spending and wasting so much money on paid ads is because you don't have anything that nurtures people. So someone sees an ad, they've never seen you before, they click over to your social profiles and it's empty. That decreases the likelihood of them wanting to work with you, right? And the ultimate consequence of this problem is because you don't have an organic presence, you spend all this money on cold ads, and then people don't convert, and then you have to spend more money on cold ads, which takes, your conversion rate down. It means that you have to spend more and more. It creates this whole vicious loop. When you start with the problem, what is the client's next question? Anyone want to take a guess? Drop in the chat. You just educated them on this whole problem. What is the next thing that they ask you? Wow, Cole, that's really interesting. Do you have any recommendations of how I can solve it? And you go, I sure do. I sure do. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of people now, they're investing in and building their own organic presence on, and I would recommend X and LinkedIn, and I feel like if you create more organic content, like that's really going to help your conversion over on these paid ads over here. The benefits too is that what happens is once you have an organic following, you actually take your customer acquisition cost way down. So now you don't have to spend as much money on ads. And what's the ultimate positive outcome? I mean, if you do that and you start taking your customer acquisition cost way down, all of a sudden the profitability of the business completely changes. You're not spending as much on cold traffic. You don't need to. And actually, the organic makes the cold traffic even better. It makes it perform better. So now you're impacting the business 2 times. You're making your cold funnel more efficient and you're making your business more profitable. Drop in the chat. Have I talked about myself at all in this? Am I telling you should work with me and you should buy my service? No. I haven't talked about myself at all. The only thing I'm doing is educating the customer on a problem they don't know they have, or a problem they know they have, but they haven't gotten around to solving. And then I'm not even saying, hire me and I'll help you. I'm saying, by the way, here's the answer. Here is the answer. And this is what I would do. Now, after you do all of this, anyone want to guess what the last question the client asks is? Drop it in the chat. I educate them on the problem. I say, here's the answer. This is what I would recommend that you do. It's not cost. We haven't talked about ourselves at all. The client doesn't know anything about us. What the client says is, are you able to help me do this? Can you help me? Is this what you do? And then you say, yes, this is what I do. This is what I specialize in. So how different is this flow compared to everything that you've ever been taught about sales and marketing? Because, by the way, like the entire reason why PGA exists, people think Premium Ghostwriting Academy is like, become a better writer. Sure, it is. But really, it trains writers on all of these other skills that surround the writing. You have to learn how to sell. You have to learn how to educate the client. You have to learn how to package and price your offering. It's so much more natural. I'm not selling the person on anything. All I'm doing is saying, I just want to help you. You have this problem. You haven't solved it. I know why you have this problem. Here's the consequence of not solving this problem. By the way, here's the answer. Here's what I would do. When you do that, these are all these good things that happen. And by the way, here's the ultimate positive outcome. And if you do this successfully, which is exactly what we train ghostwriters on how to do, and so I've seen it over and over and over and over and over again. If you do this successfully, you're not selling anymore. The client just goes, so is that what you do? Because now I'm aware of the problem. I would really like to solve it. And you go, that's actually exactly what I do. This is what I specialize in. So does this make sense for everyone? You understand this flow? You understand how this educates the client? Are we delivering? Is this the most valuable webinar you've ever sat in on in your entire life? I want to get a quick temp check. I hope so. I hope so, because these are things that took me a decade to learn, and I had to learn them the hard way. So I'm really hoping that these help everyone here. Okay, awesome. Okay, so now that you understand the irresistible offer script, here's how you charge a premium. We already talked about this. The client can't care about the solution until they first care about the problem. If you are not successful at educating the customer on the problem, no amount of convincing is going to get them across the finish line. My entire philosophy and my entire thesis around sales is that it's not sales. It is 100% a game of education. Okay. Now, how you are able to charge a premium is you have to execute a handful of things. So the first is when I asked, we went through these different skills and I said, who here is gravitating to one of these different skills? And I saw a lot of people in the chat list out multiple. So quick moment of truth here, if that was you, right? I already know the answer, but I want to hear everyone say it. Why do you think you need to pursue multiple? Why do you need to offer multiple services? Do you think if you don't offer multiple services, you're not going to have enough clients? You're not going to make enough money? Do you think that by providing more services, you're going to have more opportunity? Okay. I am telling you that every single one of these services, you could build a multi-million-dollar ghostwriting agency doing only that one thing. You could build a multi-million-dollar ghostwriting agency doing only social ghostwriting, only email course ghostwriting, only newsletter ghostwriting, only thought leadership articles. My agency was doing millions of dollars of revenue each year, and the only service we provided was 800-word thought leadership articles. So if you have this belief that you need to offer multiple things, multiple services, because there's not enough opportunity, I am telling you that that is wrong. I am telling you that that is a faulty belief. And more times than not, what happens is you spread yourself too thin and you don't specialize in anything. Now, Virginia, that's a great question. If your agency was so successful, why did you stop running it? Everyone want to know the real answer is that I racked up so many hours ghostwriting 800-word thought leadership articles that I could ghostwrite an article in 11 minutes. And I got really bored of it. I had ghostwritten for so many people that I wasn't learning anything anymore. I was like, I could do this in my sleep. I could do this blindfolded. It's not even a challenge. And so I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm still going to ghostwrite for the top 1% of 1% of people. Every once in a while, someone really interesting comes along and I go, you know what? This could be a really cool project. And I charge way more than all of the prices that we're talking about here. But the reason that I stopped was because I wasn't learning anything anymore. And I wanted to do something different. And more importantly, I wanted to pass along all of the things that I had learned to a gazillion people like we have here on this call. Ghostwriting is insanely lucrative. Insanely. It's how I made my first 6 figures, multiple 6 figures. It's the honest answer. And for everyone here, if you get to that point too, by all means, like do something different. But I was ghostwriting 10 hours a day, every day for 6 years in a row. Like at a certain point, you're like, okay, I think it's time to do something new, right? So you have to specialize. Now, can you upsell to other things? Right? Can you upsell to, I built an educational email course. I'm going to upsell to social ghostwriting. Of course. Can you upsell to a weekly newsletter? Of course. But you only want to upsell things that are complementary. If you want to do, like, video is a great example. If you want to do video, I would encourage you to only do video scripts. If you want to scale, I would really encourage you not to try and offer other things that are completely different. Email and video, completely different, right? So there's a difference between a very deliberate upsell and trying to offer a bunch of different things. And the reason why so many freelance writers are stuck is because they just go, I'll write anything for anyone at any time. One client needs articles, the other client needs emails, the other client needs social content, the other client needs, right? So you have to specialize. And I would really encourage that everyone here picks one and maybe upsells to a second. The next is you have to create an offer. And this takes some time. This is something that you might not know right away. As you work with more people, this is what you have to figure out. You have to create an offer that solves the client's biggest problem and or unlocks the outcome that they care about most without requiring much time investment from them. So if the service that you provide requires them to have, 15 back and forths on drafts, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So this is the skill that you have to build. And again, this doesn't happen overnight. This is something that you get better at over and over and over again. And as you work with more people, you learn to dial in the offer. So let me give you an example. When I was building my ghostwriting agency, our process is we would do bi-weekly content calls. And our whole value prop was, I don't need to talk to you 5 times a week. I don't need to talk to you every day. I need an hour every other week. And on that hour, I'm going to ask you questions. We're going to record the call. And then I'm going to extract all the things from the call and I'm going to turn them into articles and social content. Okay. That was a really powerful pitch. So as you provide a service, this is what you want to think about is like, how can I reduce the time investment from the client? And don't worry, we're going to distribute these notes after. You will have this Notion doc. We'll distribute it after. Okay. You can reference this as much as you want. You'll have the recording, you'll have the Notion doc. The next, and this is a really important thing, this happens in the conversation, okay, is you have to price anchor to the upside or removing the downside. So I talked about this in the startup founder example. Hey, $5,000 a month, if this helps you raise your next round, which is $30 million, that seems pretty fair, no? You're price anchoring to the upside. A different way might be, hey, right now on your website, you're saying subscribe to my newsletter, but you're getting 100,000 page views a month. That's costing you a lot of money. You're leaving a lot of money on the table. Why don't you pay me to build you an educational email course, 10x the opt-in rate, and start capturing like a much larger percentage of all that web traffic? That's price anchoring to the downside. So you always want to remember, how do I price anchor the value of what I'm offering to either the potential upside? It could be time saved, it could be money made, it could be increased status, or remove downside, right? You'll stop wasting this amount of time. You'll stop wasting all this money, right? The next is you have to make the offer stack tangible. So this is another thing. We spend a lot of time talking about this inside PGA. something that a lot of writers and really all service providers do, designers, like graphic designers, video editors, everybody, they all make this mistake. Their offer stack is something like, I'll help you create more content to up level your brand and really make yourself known. That doesn't mean anything. You can't hold up level your brand. You can't measure that. There's nothing tangible about that, right? So you need to find ways to make the thing that you're offering as tangible as possible. That's why I love educational email courses. What's the ROI? The ROI is you don't have an educational email course. Now you do. You don't have a resource that's educating people on autopilot. Now you do. You have a sub 1% opt-in rate. I guarantee you an educational email course is going to get that above 30%. Very tangible. We can measure these things. We can hold these things. And whatever we can hold and measure, we value more. That's why it's such an important part of how you frame your service. The next piece. How do you measure ROI on articles real quick? Right now, you don't have a library educating investors on the mission of your company. If you did have a library and you had something that they could go through that exemplified what you were trying to solve in the world, the likelihood that they would want to invest would go up. It exists for every service. You just have to sit there and think about it. You don't have a library, now you do. You don't have an organic following, now you do. You don't have a library of content, now you do. You don't have an educational email course, now you do. You don't have a newsletter nurturing people on autopilot, now you do. You don't have 7 sequences educating people on autopilot based on what behavior they demonstrate in your email list, now you do. Over and over and over, it's the same thing. Number 6 is a really important one. When you get on a call with a client and you say, it's $5,000 to build an educational email course, and the client goes, I think that's a little expensive. You know what every single freelance writer does? They start going, I'm sorry, I guess I'll do it for $1,000. They just give up. They like immediately give in to the client. You know what you should do? You should sit there and go, well, I mean, I really stand by the quality of work that I provide, and I know that an educational email course is going to have a massive impact on your business. So this is what I charge. I would love to work together. You stand your ground. Do you think that when you walk in and try and buy a Ferrari and you say, boy, that Ferrari is really expensive, do you think Ferrari just gives it to you for a cheaper price? No, they're like, we're Ferrari. Do you want a Ferrari or no? And by the way, everyone here, you can be Ferrari. It's not hard. All you do is just build these skills and say a higher price. That's all you do. You don't want to be Honda. You want to be a Ferrari. And then this is the strategy that we train ghostwriters on, is that you never negotiate on the call, but you can always circle back later. So what you do is you say the real price, and if they haggle with you on the call, you go, I stand by my quality of work. This is what it costs. 50% of the time, the client goes, well, that's pretty fair. Okay, I'm in. Sucks if you would have started dropping the price on them, right? In other cases, the client goes, yeah, I don't know if I have the budget for it. You go, okay, no problem. I'm here if you want to work together. And then you get off the call. And what you can do is, worst case scenario, you can circle back a week later, let them think about it. You've already price anchored them. And what you can say is you say, I thought about it and I really love what you're doing with your business. I really feel like this could have a big impact for you. And I'd really love to find a way to work together. So what if we did this? What if I work with you on the budget? I'll do it for half price. But if you're happy with the work, you give me a testimonial and you give me a referral. Does that sound fair? So you can get paid in other things besides cash. The point is, you don't do that on the call. You always let the client sit with the highest price because you need them to internalize that you've stood by your price and you stood by your quality of work. But you always have the downsell. You can always go back to them. And this is such a great tactic. And the last one is you follow up forever. Anyone here afraid of following up? Anyone not want to be annoying? Anyone like, I don't want to send the client too many emails? I don't want them to think that I'm like, yeah. Okay. Well, I hate to break it to you. This is how everybody feels. And it's not real. It's wrong. It's a faulty belief. You think that you following up is annoying. And from the perspective of the business owner, you following up is helpful. So I'm a business owner. We have 30 people on our team right now. Do you know how many texts and Slack messages and emails I get in a day? I get so many that I can't check them all every day. I have to batch and check my emails like twice a week and then my texts like every other day, and like Slack, I try and stay on top of. Like, I get so many messages that I can't pay attention to all of them all the time. So you think that following up is annoying. I think that if you followed up with me, it would be really helpful. So this is a faulty belief that you need to break. And I say this joke all the time inside PGA, which is you should literally follow up until they call the cops. Until someone says, I have made the executive decision that I will never buy or work with you ever in my entire life. And if you email me again, I'm going to call the authorities. Be helpful. Follow up with them. Do you know how many services I have loved? Like, people cold pitch me all the time. And there are actually a lot of services where I'm like, wow, that would be really cool. And then I just forget because I'm busy. And they don't follow up. And so because they don't follow up, I forget about it and then I don't become a client. I wanted to become a client. I just forgot. That is most people. Okay? So this is another faulty belief. Now, does all of that make sense? And if you're sitting here and you're like, wow, Cole, I'm drinking out of a fire hose. This is a lot. This is a lot to take in. I don't know how I'm supposed to implement all of this tomorrow. The answer is you're not supposed to implement all of it tomorrow. I'm giving you a crash course, but the reality is that each of these things take time, and each of these are skills that you need to build. And the whole reason why I spend so much time creating all these resources and doing all of these things, and especially why we have things like Premium Ghostwriting Academy, is because I know from personal experience that the biggest bottleneck is not just the information. I can tell you all of the answers here, all of them. I'm not withholding anything. Here are all the answers, right? The bottleneck is that you're going to run into a little bit of friction, or the client's going to ask you a question that you don't know the answer to. And when you're presented with that obstacle, the default that most people fall into is they go, I don't know. And so then they give up. The client asked me a question. I'm afraid. I don't know what to do. I give up. I followed up with a client. They seemed a little annoyed. I extrapolate that conclusion and apply it to everyone on earth. Now I have a faulty belief. I can't follow up with anyone. I give up. And so much of making progress is being able to have someone or a community or someone to go, that's not real. Just do it again. Or, good job doing it the first time. You can do it better. You should make these tweaks. Or when a client asks you this question, don't say this instead. That's the whole point. So for everyone here, like, by all means, this is a free webinar. I'm giving you all of the answers. Take this, go apply it, and I hope you make a ton of money. I really do. But if that hasn't worked for you in the past, or if you know, like, man, I'm going to run into a little bit of friction and I want to be able to ask questions, and I would love to just know what the right answer is instead of making every mistake you could possibly make, you have the resource. I would love to help you. There's a reason why we've built an entire program helping people with these exact questions and these exact obstacles. Let's end with the big question. What is AI going to do? Drop in the chat. What is a faulty belief? I just know it's going to be a faulty belief. What is a faulty belief that you have about AI right now? Drop in the chat. AI is going to replace every ghostwriter on earth. AI can do it. AI agents can do it. We'll take over the world. Okay. So, you know the easiest way to dismantle all of these faulty beliefs? It's really easy. It's going to take 3 seconds. Okay. Drop in the chat if right now you know how to use an AI agent to build an entire educational email course from scratch. That's interesting. So the very technology that you think is going to remove everything, you yourself don't know how to do? I thought it was that easy. I thought you just opened one program and pressed one key and then it magically did everything. Who here uses AI to create 100% of your content online? I don't mean it helps you. I don't mean you work with it. I mean you press a button and it writes every single word with 0 editing for you right now. That's very interesting, isn't it? It's very curious. But I thought AI could do all of it. I thought it could. The point is, people massively overestimate how much this technology can replace. Now, I want to be clear. I use AI. We use AI. I'm a big proponent of AI. I think it's super cool. Will it reduce a lot of the work? Yes. Will it create efficiencies? Yes. Will it replace ghostwriters? No. Will it replace this entire career path? No. And I will explain why. Aside from the example that I just walked through and is a perfect example of why that's not true. Because so much of your value as a writer is not the writing. I want to say that again. So much of your value as a writer is not the writing. Do you know why most writers lose clients? Do you think it's because of the writing quality? They're like, oh, I didn't produce something good enough, so the client followed me, or the client fired me. It almost never has to do with the writing quality. It has to do with all the other things. You don't know how to manage me, the client. You don't know how to do effective communication. You're not following up enough. You're not making sure that I saw the draft. You're not taking feedback. You're not sharing the strategy with me. You're not constantly looking for new ways to improve. You're not optimizing as we go along. You're not sharing the metrics. You're not like, it's all the skills that surround the writing. And we all do this in our lives. I guarantee that every single person here, there is a product or a service that you use in your life that might not be the best version of that product or service, but you love it because of all the things around it. You love it because when it breaks, you email them and they get back to you right away. You love it because when you have a question, you call the helpline and you're not on hold for 30 minutes. They answer right away. You love it because they over communicate with you. Same thing's true with software. That's right, Jarrett. Everyone forgets that so much of the services world and the services industry is all the skills that surround the service. It's not just the writing. It's the client management. It's the project. It's how you manage the project. It's how you communicate deadlines. It's whether or not you keep your promises. It's all the other things. And yeah, Remy, that's ultimately up to you. It depends on what offer you want to provide. Oftentimes you're the one posting it, but you don't have to be. But yes, oftentimes you're the one posting it. So yes, is AI going to have a massive impact on things? Yes. Yes, it is. But is it going to replace you? No. And when people, I see people comment on my content all the time. That's like, why should I bother building these skills? AI is just going to do it all anyway. You do realize that you saying that is just you creating an excuse so that you don't have to build any valuable skills in life ever. Like, again, what just all I need is one person to tell me in on this webinar right now, do you know which AI platform you can use where you press one button and it does everything we're talking about for you, including talk to the client, follow up, communicate all deliverables, ask thoughtful questions, figure out what they should say or shouldn't say. I'm sorry, I thought everyone said that AI was taking everything over. I thought AI ruined everything. It doesn't exist. And the more important, and here's the real nuance for people who are like, Cole, you're making a point, but you're like, yeah, you're skirting around the issue. Okay. The top 1% of companies are going to use AI everywhere. And the top 1% of companies are probably going to be the ones that are like, you know what? We have our own AI system. I don't think we need a ghostwriter. I think we got this. There are 34 million businesses in the US. The vast majority of people don't even know how to create a basic filter in Gmail. Drop in the chat if you know how to create a filter in Gmail. Drop in the chat if you don't know how to create a filter in Gmail. Yeah, what's a filter? You can create filters. You can organize emails into folders. So you're telling me that the most popular communication system on planet Earth for the past 25 years, there's still people who don't know how to do the simplest thing inside of that. And this is what people misunderstand about new technology. Like they see one person crushing it with AI and they go, well, that must be everyone. And it's not everyone. It's not everyone. There is an overwhelming amount of opportunity in the world, so much so that you can't even wrap your head around it. And you have to ground yourself in that first in order to then realize, wow, you don't need 800 clients. You need like 2 clients. I just got 2 $5,000 clients. I made 10 grand a month now. Like you don't need everybody. You need 2. Boy, we really filled up an hour and a half here. Does this make sense? Is this landing? Were you skeptical and now are you like, you know what? Maybe I was thinking about this the wrong way. Maybe there's more opportunity out here than I realized. Maybe if I just invest in myself a little bit and build some of these skills, maybe there's a lot of opportunity for me to take advantage of. Yeah, there is. So is this the most valuable webinar you've ever attended in your life? That's my goal. That's always my goal. Every time I do one of these, like, I know I'm biased in saying it. And of course, I want to be transparent. Like for everyone here, if you found this helpful, this is like the tip of the iceberg of what we cover inside PGA. So yes, I have a selfish interest. I would love for anyone here, if you want to build these skills, I would love to work with you. And I would really love to have you inside our Premium Ghostwriting Academy. I would, and I'll be transparent about it. But I also love talking about these topics all day, every day. And the reason I take this time is because I lived all of these problems and I genuinely care about paying it forward and passing along all of the things that took me a really long time to learn with other writers. I genuinely wish I could go back and that someone had told me all of these things. So I hope for everyone here, like I hope I delivered. I hope that these things help you. I hope that you take all of this and you apply it and you're like, wow, this opens up so much more opportunity for me. And I hope it changes your life. I really do. And I hope that if you run into some friction or you run into questions or you start to get stuck, that you ask for help. Because I promise it's not that you can't do it. It's that you have to keep doing it in order to unlock the outcomes that you want. Okay. Happy Thursday, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks for making the time. I know it's a big time investment, so I really do appreciate it. And for those of you that are interested in PGA, I would love to see you in there. If you do join, please let someone on the team know that you attended this this webinar, because I love seeing when it has an impact and that it's helpful for people. And otherwise, if not, you know, I drop free content all the time on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on X. I really try and share as much as I possibly can. So I hope this is helpful, and enjoy the day, everyone. See you soon.